Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of Rebel, Reject, Create, where we chat to creative professionals from all walks of life about how they do what they do. My guest today is Leonard Bukenya, who claims not to be a creative, despite the fact that he helps corporates with their innovation models at Aimforthemoon in Amsterdam. Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Right. So what's that all about, dude? How can you think or ever have thought that you're not creative? What's going on there?
Well, do you have some time? I have to start when I was young. No, but I think I was always, I studied IT, and I think I always looked for stuff that I could not do to try to do that. And the creative part always came easy to me. So to me, it did not have a specific value as I thought, okay, this is how you do stuff, or this is what everybody does. And I think after I've been traveling for 6 months, so I've been also been thinking a bit about myself and where my energy is, and also for my company. And basically, it has to do everything with creativity, and which I define as creating stuff, but also connecting dots, finding very unusual connections, creating unusual connections, and yeah. So I decided that I cannot deny it anymore. I have to admit that I'm a creative, even though I actually was a advertising creative. But even then, I did not want to admit that that was who I am.
Can you explain what kind of put you off that as a label or a way to describe yourself?
To me, it felt very not very serious and not very accountable. So let's put it very not very businesslike.
Right.
And I interpret creativity too much in vagueness and what my experiences with advertising agencies and stuff like that. And what I learned over the years is that you have lots of different types of creativity. So you cannot ask me to make a nice picture. Even though as a child I was really good at drawing because my mother was a fine arts teacher. But I think I create in a business perspective. That's where I get my energy from, and people. So connecting people, but also coaching people, helping people to succeed.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's a common problem, isn't it? That everyone thinks creativity is art, basically.
Yeah, they just look at creativity at what you produce as tangible products,
Yeah.
which is part of it. But I think I've learned over the years it's more a muscle which you use, how you look at the world, how you interpret the world, and how you can actually create something either from nothing or from something else.
Yeah. Yeah. So now with your perspective, having recently come out of the closet as a creative, um, how do you do what you do in your work? Do you have a particular process? Can you break it down for us?
So of course we have a process for what we do as a job, but I think for what I do or what I add, it's all about having a lot of inspiration. So what I'm going to focus even more on is talking to a lot of people. Some might be interesting for the business, but some not. But they all give me a perspective on stuff and help me connect the dots for certain situations that our customers have, which means that I will always know somebody somewhere who can help them. And on the other hand, it's also sharing what I know and then getting feedback on that and actually iterating on that as well. So
Mm,
that's what helps me actually work my creative process. And one of the things we have decided is that it means that my work is going to be less operational on
right.
clients and projects and whatever, and more going out there and bringing stuff in, but also bringing stuff from us outside and inspiring people. So I think we try to define it in a role which is impact and inspiration.
Right. Right. When that inspiration hits you, what are you typically doing? Are you working or are you doing something else? When that light bulb goes off in your head.
Yeah, I think So I think it always starts a bit earlier. So it's like a pinball machine with me. So you get like a ball that you have a conversation, there's a situation, and it's stuck. So you get the ball going in my head, and then all of a sudden it just goes ding 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 ding, and then you start getting all the bonus points, and that's when it hits that, hey, this thing is connected to this thing, and when you're connected to this thing, it's finished.
But what are you doing when
Uh,
that happens, when that really starts to happen?
it depends. It can often it's in a conversation.
Ah,
So when I find the missing piece, it clicks. Um, I think it's always has to do with input for me. So it's never, or it's hardly ever when I'm just thinking randomly. It's always that I get something and then I think, okay, this is the missing piece, and then I start thinking, and then I start polishing the idea, or going through a lot of scenarios to actually test it, because I'm still was a programmer, so you have to do software testing.
yeah.
So I test it in my head, like, does the logic work of what I'm thinking? And then
So it doesn't happen when you're busy trying to figure it out,
um
like as in
no,
intellectually going, "Urgh."
no, because I think you always miss some pieces, and I think you always miss some of the surprise elements that makes things great.
All right. So let's talk about what you do with Aim for the Moon for corporates. I mean, I always find this quite funny because I guess, I've been out of the closet as a creative most of my life, but that corporates whose entire market value is underpinned by intellectual property, right? They've got a thing that they sell, hate creativity, don't know what to do with it, and have to hire someone like Aim for the Moon in to help them innovate. What the hell is going on there?
I don't agree that they hate creativity. I think the thing is, when you look at companies, when they start, they are creative. There's a new technology, a new solution, and you have to find things out. And what happens is, when you look at how companies create value, it all has to do with optimization. And there is creativity in optimization, but the biggest reflex of that is standardization, and doing things as you've done them before. And then it becomes very hard, as Clayton Christensen defines the innovator's dilemma, that when something new comes along, that you actually look at it from a new perspective. And that's what we do. That's what we bring to the table. We bring a new perspective. We do have like processes and things how to execute, but it's looking at it from a new perspective, where the perspective is, what does the customer need? Is there a problem to fix? And what are ways to fix that problem?
So, to rephrase that answer, you're kind of saying that companies, once they're set up and running, suffer from a sort of cognitive bias and can't escape their own point of view anymore.
Well, I think lots of creatives have it as well. So when you were young, you had all these ideas and you were changing stuff, and then you find something that works, and you optimize your output along that road. And that's when creatives, I think, also get stuck, because they're like, yeah, but why am I doing this? And yeah, you just become a creative machine, and it's creative to the outside world, but to you, how the formula works. So I think it's not that different. I mean, there's lots of I think what's the band Kensington.
Yeah.
The lead singer just stopped, I read, because there was some creative differences. They were just they rose, and then they were a machine, and then the machine started producing music which people did not find that creative or inspiring, because it's just doing the trick every time,
Yeah.
and then it stops.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't I again, connecting the dots, I think that's the parallel between a business and a creative.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think the breaks between inputs are way more important in the creative process than we mostly give that credit for. I mean, it's no coincidence that you've come back from sabbatical with a totally different perspective.
Yeah, and the interesting part, it was always there. So like a proper coming out, everybody knew. I
Yeah.
actually knew. I did not want to admit to it. I was always fighting it. I was always finding a way of not being the creative. But now it was more the realization, what the hell, just go after what gives you energy, and then the universe will conspire to bring it to you.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you have a roadmap for that? How does one embrace one's creativity in order to become basically even more creative?
Um, so for me, the process is not a roadmap. It's just going out there and talking to a lot of people, finding a lot of inspiration by either I don't read very well, so I listen to books, or going to events and trying to understand stuff, which is very vague. But for me, it's all about that. And also now with this in my head, I've had a couple of conversations where I help people, or and that's creating value. It's like a spider's web.
Yeah,
I think a spider's web on LSD. I don't know. You have to. They gave spiders different drugs, and then they start making these very
yeah,
strange. So it's not as structured as the regular spider's web, but a bit more all over the place. But
yeah.
it will catch flies.
It kind of ties back into what you said right at the beginning about, creativity not really being measurable. It's like, wow, it's a spider's web on LSD, and I'm going to take lots of breaks, and I'm going to talk to people and get inspiration. You can just see a manager's head going, "You're going to do
Yeah,
what?"
but I think if you look at, I don't know, have you read the book Creativity Inc.
Yeah.
about Pixar? There is a method to foster it.
Yes.
So also what we do with our venture building studio, we cannot guarantee the outcome, but we can guarantee that you can create the parameters that foster that outcome and foster the best outcome, or foster a better outcome. So I think it's all about that, and you have to trust the approach or the process a bit. And also at the end of the day, I do have a track record, so I know it will happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's different when you're just starting.
Yeah. And I suppose if you put a room full of corporates together and say to them, come up with something new, they don't have a track record, and it's going to be very, very hard for them. They need someone like you in the room, right?
Yeah, so coming up with something new, it's either it's outlandish, which is ridiculous. If nobody has ever thought of it before, there's a reason for it. Or it's very close to what they do. And I think what we try to do, or what I try to do is, okay, so if you define the problem as um, I cannot do this, who else had that problem in a totally different market or segment? And try to connect that, or look at solutions, or at situations, or even the thought exercise of, hey, I'm I don't know, a telecoms company. How would I work if I was a carpenter? Which that thought exercise already opens your mind up to, hey, wait, maybe what the carpenter is doing is not that different from what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
maybe I can borrow some of the learnings that a carpenter has and actually make it different.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone's doubting that metaphor that you just used there, they just really have to think about Agile, right? Which is a software development tool like Scrum and
Yeah.
Lean and all of that stuff. And look how many people use it now in other businesses.
Yeah. And so that's and there's a very nice documentary. I just discussed it this week as well, or last week. Everything is a remix.
Yeah.
So basically, it's rooted in hip hop, and that hip hop, of course, remixed. And but if you look at all the music, there is the 7 notes. They were always there. That's not changing. We're not having any new notes. We're just remixing them, and most of the stuff has already been thought of. And also during my world trip, you see in different countries, different cultures, situations have been solved. Maybe not in the way that we would solve them, but they have found a way where I also see that it's not about winning, but it's about finding a balance, that things are in balance. So for instance, if you look at like different cultures living together in Malaysia, every month there's like 5 holidays because they have all these different religions.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It's not there's a dominant religion and sub religion, but they have found a way to make it work in that country.
Yeah.
which I then think, look what's working there, and how does it translate to here, or why doesn't it translate, and then work and fix that.
Yeah. I love that analogy as well. I mean, you mentioned music, and that always makes me think of the axis of awesome, the 4 chords. I mean, you mentioned the 7 notes, but the axis of awesome is a medley of over 200 songs that use the same chords in the same order, but none of them sound alike.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So we were doing we were traveling in Cambodia. We did a cooking class, and then all the dishes had the same ingredients, but they all tasted different.
I like that. All right. So
and nature has given the ingredients. We didn't come up with the ingredients, so nature has already thought of it before. And so, you can make the analogy even further than just other countries or other companies. You can actually, it actually made me think of how does that work in nature. And in nature, the only thing nature wants to do is create balance. So that's also inspiring me a bit on, maybe the focus should not be only growth, but balance. And balance takes time.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So if someone comes up to you and says, wow, Leonard, you've always been such a straight-laced computer programmer, never guessed you were creative. Maybe I'm creative too. What advice would you give them in order to be more creative? What one thing, only one thing, would you tell them they should do?
Be curious.
Yeah, that's a good one, huh? Look for answers. Don't assume you have them. Ask lots of
questions. And yeah, but also be open. So you can, looking for answers is maybe more the computer programmer way. It's actually being curious about, hey, what's happening there, and why is it happening, and why do I have an opinion about that, or why don't I have an opinion about that? Why do I think it's good or bad? It's all those things that you can question, and really be open to, hey, what do I see? So what's the hard observation? How does it make me feel, or what's the effect that it has? And yeah, what's my opinion about that, and why do I have that opinion, and being questioning that all the time.
That really makes me think of the number one condition for getting into a creative headspace, which is suspend judgment.
Yeah, that's basically it.
I love it. Leonard, thank you so much. It's been awesome talking to you.
Thank you, David.
And for everyone watching on your phone or on your computer, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please hit the like button and the subscribe button under that, so you can come back and see more episodes of these kind of crazy ass conversations where we try to get to the bottom of how people do the amazing stuff that they do with creativity. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, ciao.
Thank you.